All right, today is June 24th, 2023, and we're at Columbia Heights Festival. This is Dan Kirk. Could you tell me your name?
Jordan Blackwell.
Jordan, could you tell me your connection to Columbia Heights?
Columbia Heights. Actually, my wife has lived in Adams Morgan in Columbia Heights area for quite some time, and I met her about 17 years ago, 17, 18 years ago, something like that. Yeah. So we actually met at Taekwondo at UDC, so that was very, very fortuitous. Her mother still lives in this area and has been a big part of the community, just kind of taking part in some of the schooling opportunities for older individuals in the neighborhood, which is great. She recently graduated from one of the programs, actually, which is really cool. So this part of the community has been not exactly a big part of my life growing up in DC, but it's definitely been something that has influenced how I've moved throughout the city because my wife being part of this community and things like that. So it was actually very interesting to come to this particular school because growing up in Brookland, I've seen lots of development. I've seen lots of the elementary schools built up and their parks and everything that are in their playgrounds being renovated, and this has actually been one of the ones that I've not had a chance to visit. So it was interesting to come to this festival and participate, and it's been a great day. We've had a lot of fun.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah.
And so you were raised in Brookland,
Yes.
and your wife here. What are some of the comparisons, and you kind of alluded a little bit to some of those, but what are some of the comparisons you see going on between Brookland and Columbia Heights?
Sure. Well, growing up in Brookland, it was definitely kind of feeling like a tight-knit community. We had kind of the small town feel in a big city, and that's really different than any other place in the country as far as I can tell, because maybe I haven't gone to one that would be comparable, but at this point, it just really felt like it's a community that everybody gets to know each other, and we recognize that we're here to take care of our space together, and that's been feeling very good. Comparison to Brookland is, they've kept the city feel, but the population has been respectful of the streets and making sure that we're keeping the homes moving forward instead of falling apart like in a lot of different areas in DC. Brookland has started to build some of those higher rise apartment complexes and condos. They've blocked out a little of the skyline view in certain areas, but I know that there's supposed to be some benefit to that in the future, so I'm looking forward to that, and I think that Columbia Heights has been consistent with, renovating their homes and making sure that the area is well set up for community connections like this, recreation centers or large parks where people can come together and play, and I think that that's really, really good, and that's definitely something that Brookland did as well.
Wow.
So.
And so you've seen the city change over time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are some of those changes that you've noticed or that have been most obvious to you?
Well, we had a lot more green space when I was a kid, and like the Brookline Recreation Center that was built up, that's been great. When I was a kid, that area was all grass, like maybe just 2 trees, not even really a forest or wooded area or anything like that. The recreation centers, I think, are great for the community. They've definitely given people opportunities to get out and exercise. They've brought the community together because we have lots of different sports programs and things that people can participate in to keep them busy, and keep them healthy, and that's always a benefit. So community programs, things that have given opportunities to the citizens, kind of give you a chance to get out of the house and just be part of the city as a community. Those have been very helpful, very good for us.
And you feel that has become greater over? Is that with the change?
It certainly has improved. Yeah,
Okay.
it certainly has improved. I think that unfortunately, there's a little bit of a with traffic issue because of the population increase in the area. So that's something that we have to deal with on a regular basis. But it's nothing that's been too difficult for me personally. Moving around the city has always been an issue for the most part, but Metro is really good. And being local, like I work pretty close to where I live. The kids' school is pretty close to where we live. So that is a big benefit. And having a community that is supportive of good, strong schools for children so that they can develop and bring back to the community as they grow, that's been very good, and that's definitely an improvement that we've seen here.
Oh, that's great. And so you have kids. What ages?
My daughter is 7.5. She's about to be 8 actually next month. So not 9.5. She's basically 8 years old, and my son is 5.
And you're raising your 2 kids in the same neighborhood you were raised.
Yes.
And how is their life as a child similar or different from your own childhood, would you say?
Oh, well, there's a lot more playgrounds, a lot more safe spaces for children to play. The community when I was a kid, there were a few families that had children, but we all, like I grew up having blacktop playgrounds. Like sometimes we were in the parking lot of the school, but it's really turned around here in the city. A lot of schools are being built up, but they're thinking about the space and they're figuring out how to make sure that they're providing that play space for children, which is very important, I think, for each day. So I'm very pleased with the different kinds of playgrounds that are around different areas. You can go about 4 or 5 blocks in any direction in the area in DC that I live, and you'll run into a different park. That could be a very small one or a very large one. Different types of climbing materials and things like that is very helpful. And also the programs that are provided for children, like camps and dance, for instance, Dance Place in Northeast DC. There's a lot of programs for children to start building skills at a younger age, things that weren't quite available for me when I was a kid. And those are, I think, vital for making sure that the community starts off on a good foot, that you find the things that your children are interested in, and that you can continue to promote that so they can become a professional, or even if it's just a hobby, they keep themselves healthy and they keep themselves driven. And they participate in groups that want to succeed and be better every single day instead of, the other options, which can be devastating to your lifestyle.
And certainly I'm hearing about a lot of the various positives. Are there any challenges you've seen, or things that are greater challenges today than maybe when you were young?
I would say that not necessarily. There's lots of stuff that is a challenge, but if it's more challenging than when I was a kid, I wouldn't say that's quite the case. There's certainly a lot of we're in a state right now as far as the whole country where we're not quite certain about what our economic future is going to be, what the focus of certain lawmaking processes are. Those things can be alarming because we live in this country and we're working hard to have stable lives that we can rely on our future and our jobs and our income. So that definitely makes you feel a little uneasy at times, but for the most part, the community factor and the ability to find people to rely on when you really need it, or being the person to be relied on, is sometimes the case as well. But you can find that here in this city. You can find people who are willing to go the extra mile to assist you along your way. And that's something that's very special. And I've noticed that ever since I was very young here, which is why I mentioned that it felt like a small town in a big city. You know, people are often friendlier than you would expect. And if you are willing to talk to them and reach out to them and just spend some time with them, you'll realize that they are certainly nicer than you would have expected. And that's great. I think that's wonderful.
I guess one last question on my end. Are there, where would you like to see kind of the city and neighborhoods such as Columbia Heights and Bloomingdale? No, yes.
Brookland.
Brookland. Why did I think
Brookland.
I'm sorry.
Brookland.
I'm thinking Bloomingdale. I meant Brookland.
Sure.
Where would you like to see these neighborhoods evolve in the future?
Well, one thing that I do appreciate, especially in Brookland, is the kind of family-oriented lifestyle. People are buying houses and or condos even, you know, in these different complexes that they have, and there's people who are interested in making sure that there's a safe zone for their family, for their children growing up, raising children in an environment that is healthy, that is promoting responsible lifestyles, looking after your neighbors, keeping your home clean. These are foundational things that make it so that everybody benefits from the community, and being able to work together in that fashion is really important, I think, for any goal to be successful. So at this point, I think, you know, kind of promoting that sense of community, getting people to come out with experiences like this, meeting people you've never met before, seeing somebody you wouldn't assume that you'd see on a regular basis, and just seeing that we're regular human people. We all have dreams, we all have things that we want to work for, but we can care for each other too, and we can show compassion for the issues that are, you know, that we're all dealing with on a regular basis, to continue to step forward and be able to thrive in the city. Yeah. So that's the most important thing, I think, is people thriving, continuing to thrive, and being happy.
That's terrific. Any last things you'd like to leave us with?
For all the people who participated in setting this up, I think the festivals are wonderful. I think that we should have more of them. I think that it's a good opportunity to get exposure for small businesses who are trying to promote their products, but also get children to come out and play, get adults to have a time to relax, and just really energize everyone throughout the seasons. So yes, stuff like this is wonderful. So thank you so much for all the effort and time it took to put it together.
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.